John McMullen, breaking news just right before you jump on with us today, and it has to do with the Buccaneers and the Patriots. How could those two teams have some sort of connection at this stage of the offseason here? I wonder. Well, apparently that WWE contract that Rob Gronkowski signed wasn't plentiful enough for him, and he has decided that he is interested in potentially going back to play, but he only wants to conveniently play in one place, Tampa, right by the where all the wrestlers live. So, are we going to see Rob Gronkowski back in the NFL this season?
Yeah, I think we are. From the day he retired, I speculated he was going to come back at some point, and I thought it would be actually during the season. But he's still young, still got a lot left in the tank, obviously, from a performance standpoint, how well he was playing, how good he was. How good he is. Now, he lost a ton of weight. He's got to put up. But I joked. I mean, you mentioned WWE. He didn't sign a contract. He signed a contract to do SummerSlam. So short term.
WrestleMania.
No, WrestleMania is set up. One match. He's doing a match at SummerSlam, I should say.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
he had a short term window where he would set up the angle and then do the match. And who knows if we're even going to have SummerSlam, which would be in August in Boston. So that was part of it as well, and why they wanted Gronk for that. So it wasn't like he was ever going to do it full time. And obviously he likes playing with Tom Brady, understandably so. And then the second part is, I think it's tough, and people have talked about it going back to, Lane Johnson when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and he talked about having fun versus the Bill Belichick way of doing things. And it took 20 years, but it finally wore on Tom Brady. I think it wore on Rob Gronkowski as well, and they want to go to a situation where they can have fun.
Yeah.
And they think they can have fun in Tampa. We'll see how it works out.
Oh, it's fun in Tampa, baby. I can attest to that. I mean, those two guys can get in some trouble down there, although I guess Gronk more than Brady. Brady's happily married, of course.
Brady's already in trouble.
Yeah, I saw that.
Going out the parks.
Now, Gronk, correct me if I'm wrong here, has time left on his contract, so a trade has to be worked out here.
Yeah.
Do you think the Patriots would get in the way of that?
No, I don't think they would, because they know he's not coming back to play for them. So I think it's one of those situations where you just get as much as possible and try to go in that direction. And, for the first time in a really long time, I think the Patriots got to be realistic. They don't even have a quarterback. They're no longer a legitimate Super Bowl contender. So, from their standpoint, you don't necessarily want an aging tight end that's already retired once and, in theory, would be far closer to the end than the starting gun. So I think from their standpoint, it makes sense. You just get as much as you possibly could. You might even see a tight end to tight end trade, because O.J. Howard down there is not expected to be back. So it could be something as simple as that.
Yeah, I know O.J. Howard was on the market before this all happened. By the way, Gronk has 1 year, $10 million left on the contract. That, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, that both sides are working on a deal. So it sounds like the Patriots are a willing participant in this whole thing. They figure he's not going to play for us. The question is, what kind of compensation can the Patriots legitimately ask for? Are we talking about a high draft? You're getting Rob Gronkowski here.
Yeah, typically, obviously, if he was still playing and still the all-pro tight end that he was, and it's always different. And even, Gronk, you think about Trent Williams, who's also on the trading block, and a lot of people expect him to finally get dealt this week. Anytime you take off a year, it kind of complicates things as far as typically when you talk about players at that level, elite level players, Hall of Fame level players, you're talking about significant things in return, but you have to weigh all that other stuff in. I mean, you mentioned I don't know if you saw Gronk at WrestleMania, but lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, I actually did see that, and he should probably get out of the WWE game. He's not very good at it. He's not. Well, he's not good on the mic.
I think he's just trying to help his buddy, poor Mojo Rawley.
Yeah.
Who's not very good at it either, to be honest. But Dean Mutati, by the way, is his real name, and played in the NFL. Had a cup of coffee, but there's so many things you got to throw in the mix. As I mentioned, the fact that he's not NFL ready right now, which he acknowledges. He's got to gain weight. He's got to get back into playing shape to be able to handle it. And then you talk about all the injuries he's accumulated, which is another reason he walked away, to sort of try to rejuvenate himself from that perspective. So it might not be as much as you would assume from what is arguably the greatest tight end of all time.
I want to enter Daniel Jeremiah, a guy that you bring up a lot, who has a lot of draft insight. He threw this out there: Bucs, Patriots could swap ones for Gronk. New England gets 14. Tampa goes back to 23, and then New England is now in play for Tua, I guess, if he starts dropping, and a lot of people starting to try to connect the Tua dots if he falls, New England, yada, yada. But is it as simple as swapping ones, 14 for 23?
Yeah, it could be, and I mentioned Howard might be involved as well. A lot of people, you've mentioned that, as you said, I did it in my own mock draft. I find it very hard to believe the Patriots are going to move forward and say Jarrett Stidham's our starting quarterback. I think they want to get somebody. I don't know if it's going to be a veteran or they're going to draft someone. And, yeah, the speculation, in a lot of ways, Tua is, the defining player of this draft because, you could see him going at 3, and you could see him falling out of the first round because of the health issues. And you don't know how many teams have crossed him off their boards. So it's one of those situations where people say, hey, could he drop that far? Yeah, he could drop. As a matter of fact, he could drop a heck of a lot farther. But
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you're willing to take that chance, even if you got to wait a year, something of that nature, it make a lot of sense from the Patriots' perspective because they need to find the next guy. I don't envy anyone, though, to have to replace Tom Brady. I got to be honest. I don't care who it is.
No. A lot of interesting, peeling the onion back here a little bit more. I mean, you've said before, how does a team go to a 42-year-old quarterback? It's just not a smart move. Now you're going to get an older – would you say that getting Gronk for O.J. Howard, a younger, Howard was supposed to be a pretty dynamic player. He hasn't worked out, but you're getting Tom Brady now that you hopefully gets the best out of O.J. Howard. Is that even are they being so short-sighted for 1 year, the Buccaneers, with him? You're drafting 14th. You're going back to 23. You got a 42-year-old quarterback, and now you're bringing in a 31-year-old tight end and giving up a guy that you drafted in the first round.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is short-sighted. I think that's very fair. And what you are signaling is saying we're going for it right now.
Right now.
Is, if you think about it from the Buccaneers' perspective, coming off last season, you would say, okay, this team is not ready to say we're going to go for it. But things change drastically when you get Tom Brady. And then if you add Gronk to that mix as well, you're saying we're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I don't think it's going to work out for them, but that's their thought. And I would say, obviously Tom himself, in a lot of ways when you do something like this, you got to acquiesce the player, to be honest. And certainly someone with his reputation, and certainly he wants to play with Gronk and vice versa, and he's very comfortable with him. But I tell you, and he's going to be 43 by the time if we ever get rolling, I'd be more concerned about getting tackles to protect him. That's what I'd be first and foremost concerned about.
John McMullen at JF McMullen. Of course, you look at the NFL draft coming up, and this potential, trade here. Is it, you look at it where Gronkowski, he's not going to, if he makes a trade, it's because he's going to play here. But as you mentioned, he hasn't played in a year. You don't know what guy. Did you think that Gronkowski was slowing down at the end there? Like, did he look like the same Rob Gronkowski to you in that final season?
Well, he did when he was healthy, and that's the thing with Gronk and the fact that he was so banged up at the end. But when he was healthy, yeah, I mean, he was right there with George Kittle, Travis Kelce,
right.
And really, as an all-around tight end, you don't see very much of him. It was really Gronk and Kittle as somebody who could dominate in the receiving game and also hold up as a true wide back and block in line. Those were the two guys. So he was still at that level when he was healthy. But, I mean, in a lot of ways, he's like J.J. Watt, and the way he plays the game and just destroys people. And when you destroy people, there's a lot of highlights, but you're also hurting yourself. You're destroying your own body. And that's kind of what happened to J.J. Watt eventually. And Gronk in a similar fashion, just dragging people and, all this highlight plays, and you say, wow, but you're taking a lot of punishment as well on those types of plays. And ultimately, hey, health is the big reason why he walked away the first time.
Now, there's something, John's latest mock draft, or only mock draft, is posted at Sports Illustrated at JF McMullen. You can check it out there. You went the bull route with the linebacker in the first round. Now, I find this interesting for two reasons. One, you went with a linebacker in the first round. Two, the pick before is Jerry Jeudy out of Alabama. Now, if Jeudy is starting to slip down the board and he's still there at 17, 18, doesn't Howie Roseman make a call and make a trade at that point if he's falling down the board?
Yeah, no question. I've had a lot of people ask me about that. But you see, the thing is that people don't add into it is the other teams are, they have to be willing to trade and go down. So it's not just, and I say this when people speculated if the four receivers aren't there, the Eagles would trade down. And that would certainly be the preference. But again, you need a dance partner. You need somebody to want to come up. And it's not just as easy as snapping your fingers. I think too many fans think, okay, the player we wanted is not there, or the player we want, and automatically you can get that done. So that's number one. Number two, and this happens every year, and when you go and you do these mock drafts, I say it to you all the time, Mike. You listen to draft Twitter, as I like to call it. There's 50 first-round picks. Everybody's a first-round pick. That's a first-round pick. This is a first-round pick. This is a first-round pick. It's only 32 first-round picks. It's only 20 picks. And when you start going down, and you say Derek Brown being the perfect example for me, well, he's either going to Carolina at 7. And then if he doesn't go to Carolina, which I don't have him going to Carolina because I think they're going to be able to get Simmons, then where does he go? Where does he fit? Not saying he's a bad player, but other teams have other needs going in different directions. There's going to be some quarterbacks. There's going to be a ton of offensive tackles going. Just mentioned Tampa Bay. If they don't trade, they got to take a tackle. There's going to be tackles going left and right. And then the receivers as well. So all of a sudden, you start saying who's going to be there. And then from that aspect, there's some really good players that are going to slip. And that might help the Eagles. That might hurt them. But ultimately, I don't think any of the top four receivers are going to get down to 21. And the one aspect of my mock that I think nobody has brought up is, hey, why not go back into the first round and get 2 first-round picks? And then you get into the Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Reagor business at the end of the first round. Because we've seen Howie Roseman's history, second, third round pick, hit and miss, occasional, certainly last year with Miles Sanders. But you're talking Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas. You know, everybody values these picks way too much. And if you can go up and get first round picks, you know, fortune favors the bold, as they say. So that's my estimation. Take Murray and then trade back up and get one of those second-tier receivers.
Well, and that's not even to say that if you took Murray at 21, that if you stayed put at 53, it sounds as if a lot of people out there still feel that there's a lot of receivers in play that you're going to be happy with if you stick with where you are and you don't need to give anything up. Now, if there's somebody that you really like that you don't think is going to make it to 53, that changes the narrative. But you can make the pick in the first round, not be a wide receiver, and still at 53 be happy with the guy that you're going to get there.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be, we talked about the depth of this class. If they just stay at 53, they're going to be able to get some kind of receiver that's certainly capable and competent and maybe able to develop into a player down the line. But then you start talking about more flaws and you start talking about the Michael Pittmans of the world. Do you really want, you know, I think that's going to be a really good player, but do you really want a big receiver that is more going to be a contested catch guy? I don't think the Eagles want that. Talk about KJ Hamler. A lot of people like him here because he's Penn State and they're trying to go Miles Sanders, KJ Hamler, 53, Penn State. But, man, he's really small, and I think he's just – his frame limits him a little bit. So I do think from talking to Andy Weidel, from hearing him explain what he wants in a receiver, if you're talking second-tier guys, it's guys that can win in space. And those, Reagor and Ayuk, those are the two guys that can win in space.
John McMullen's mock draft at JF McMullen, Sports Illustrated, SI.com. As you mentioned, at number 21 for Philly, Kenneth Murray, the linebacker, is where you've got them going. Jerry Jeudy goes right in front of them. Also, Justin Jefferson gone, as Henry Ruggs and CeeDee Lamb gone. I've seen a lot of mock drafts recently go with Henry Ruggs at 21. So I'll ask you, do you think Henry Ruggs makes – now, obviously, you have him going 13, but would you be surprised if Ruggs made it to 21? Because some credible people feel like he's going to be there.
Yeah, if any of the four are going to be there, and this is surprising, I think it would be Ruggs. I don't think the other three are going to make it to 21, and I think that surprises people with Jefferson. But people in the NFL really, really like Jefferson. I don't see any way he's going to last that long. And then when you start just what I was talking about, you start going down the board, the more quarterbacks get pushed up, if Tua goes, even if somebody falls in love with Love, you know, the more guys like that get pushed up the board, you know, do the four tackles go so quickly that some other tackle desperate teams like Tampa Bay, that they have to take an offensive tackle, one of those second-tier offensive tackles, and push them up the board. And then all of a sudden, in those types of situations, guys who you thought were going to go much higher are going to start to fall. It happens every year. Certain positions go on runs, and that means good players of other positions fall down the board. So I do think, you know, I've been putting percentages on it. You know, who's going to last to 21? Lamb, 0%. Jefferson, 20%. Jeudy, probably 10%. And Ruggs, probably 40, 50%. He might slip.
We have a trade in the NFL. John McMullen, pending physicals. The Patriots are trading Rob Gronkowski and a 7th-round pick to the Buccaneers for a 4th-round pick. Okay?
That's it. Yeah, see?
That's a lot different than the compensation we just talked about.
Yeah. I mean, that uncertainty. And I think, somebody asked me today on a different show about Trent Williams, and I'm like, I have no idea. I mean, typically, the all-pro Trent Williams, that's worth first-round pick plus something else. But a guy who hasn't played in a year, who sat out, who had some of those weird injury issues, I don't know. I don't know what the value is. And you just saw the similar thing with Rob Gronkowski.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing happened. I mean, I'm sure it was happening behind the scenes, but you and I started this Football at 4 conversation as we do every day at this time, and by the end of it, it was speculation. He wants to play. He wants to play in Tampa. What could the compensation be? Now he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, essentially. And I had even read, as we were having this conversation, that he had already taken a physical and passed.
Well, he is in Tampa, so he has been in that area.
Did he also get thrown out of the park in Tampa yesterday?
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe that's who broke the story. Maybe he was throwing the Gronk.
Oh man!
And by the way, when you're living in St. Petersburg, Josh and I were talking about this before I came on. What the heck do you need to go to the park for? That place is pretty big.
Yeah, well, he's probably getting a little cabin fever. People get it, cabin fever.
Oh, I got it right now.
Oh, I got to tell you, I was at the deli today, and the lady said to me, "How you holding up?" I said, "I love this. I haven't been out of my house for 4 weeks, and I have no problem with it." And
I was texting with somebody who said they were going to do some work at a radio station in a different state, and I'm like, "Hey, I'd be thrilled to go into the studio."
Yeah, right.
I'd be thrilled just to get out of the house.
Georgia's calling. They want you to come on down there and hang out.
I got a mask. I'll do it.
Stop by Tennessee on your way there. Let us know how it is, all right? John McMullen at JF McMullen on Twitter. Make sure you give him a follow for all things draft leading up to it. Tomorrow, more Football at 4, reaction to Gronk, the NFL draft, and more right here, Football at 4 with John McMullen. Thanks, pal.
All right, thanks, Mike.
Johnny Mac, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.